Okay. The only reason we're sitting on the title screen is that I didn't want to cut the screen, or I didn't want to cut the stream directly into dead silence. So, at the end of last stream, we finished the adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band. And with this stream, we are starting the adventure of the Runaway Room. And I'm very excited. Because this is the case that introduces one of my favorite characters in this game. She's great.
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude, the beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Gosh, the animated cutscenes look so good in this game.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought
I
so.
like
Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay.
I like Ryunosuke's hat and cape.
Welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
We're building the Eiffel Tower here, right now. What an incredible place.
It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating.
This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress.
There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only just been built in a few short decades, since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from.
It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again?
This is the Lord Chief Justice Office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain.
The Lord Chief Justice.
We had instructions to report here at this time. If circumstances were different, we were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan.
But Kazuma can't.
No. So instead, we're here in a different capacity. As envoys, to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death.
Yes.
And having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done.
So, we'd have to return to Japan.
If we want to remain here in Great Britain,
I have to take Kazuma's place as the new law student selected for the study tour.
yes, which means that you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer.
Which is what I've been studying for.
Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. And so that's the second reason why we're here. You have to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London.
I hope I'm up to scratch. Good morning. Sorry for keeping you. This guy looks like he was ripped straight out of Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Oh. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. Huh. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I'm Mael Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot.
Come on, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't be a mouse.
Oh, it's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. This guy gives off huge villain vibes. Like, I don't know if I'm just reading this wrong, but like, Ace Attorney tends to play this stuff relatively straight, but at the same time, it feels so obvious that he's gonna be a villain that it makes me loop back around to thinking he might be a good dude and just intimidating. Yes, thank you. Am I actually allowed to look around? Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room.
I believe they're suits of armor.
Oh, right. Thought maybe they were like the lion dogs we have in Japan guarding shrine gates.
No, not at all. In fact, in Europe, suits of armor like these are always possessed by evil spirits, you know? And they roam around in the middle of the night.
Really? Is there nothing you don't know, Miss Susato?
This book tells me everything I need to know about everything. If you're ever unsure, just ask.
Where did she get that incredible tome? There's something really funny about, like, witnessing the culture shock. Just look at all the naughty books. All of the naughty books packed together on these shelves. They go from floor to ceiling.
Mr. Naruhodo, you're not supposed to be reading those out in public. And they're all books that you couldn't hope to come by in Japan. It's like a dream.
Yes, very bad dream.
They're not all about British law either. There are books about judicial systems of other Western nations. France, Germany, Spain, Holland.
What about Russia?
Why do you ask?
I was wondering about asking the Lord Chief Justice how you say wardrobe in Russian. What do you think?
I think perhaps it's a thought best abandoned.
Is this some kind of clock?
Actually, I think we might be inside some sort of giant clock. But those gears are larger than anything you'd find on a steam locomotive even.
It's eerie. Do you think clocks are some sort of hobby of his? The Lord Chief Justice, I mean.
Well, boys do enjoy fiddling around with machines, don't they?
I'm not sure you could fiddle with cogs that size, and I'm certain you couldn't call him a boy. Still, it's amazing how little noise the cogs make, considering how large they are. There's actually something quite soothing about their precise rhythm.
This must be the Lord Chief Justice's desk. I believe it's made of marble.
God damn, trying to get that upstairs must have been a pain in the ass. It looks more like an over-the-top tombstone that's toppled over to me.
I think that's your fanciful imagination at work again, Mr. Naruhodo.
Feels like everything that's normally made of wood and paper at home is made out of bricks and stone here.
I know. That's why this place feels so overbearing, I'm sure.
Okay, Strongheart, now that we've had the chance to speak, I'm an attorney. Lord Strongheart, may I show you this? Accept this item, issue a receipt, examine it thoroughly, and make a formal statement of my findings. It requires something in the region of 24 seconds of my time. Sorry? Does the item warrant 24 seconds of my time, Mr. Naruhodo? Let's leave it for now. Oh wait, we can actually look at the thing itself. These are the scales of justice. They're a symbol of the defense, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. The scales are a symbol of fairness, to show that all are treated equally in the eyes of the law. And they're a warning to those who enter the courtroom without an impartial mind.
If they're the mark of the defense, it'd be more auspicious if they were weighing more heavily on the not guilty side, I think.
Very impartial, I'm sure.
It's just like, yeah. Oh, it makes me sad. Player's name is embroidered on the inside here. Look. Kazuma Asogi. This was his band, of course.
He had his heart set on the study tour in Great Britain.
Sure he would have found the truth he longed for here. But he lost his life before he even had the chance to see the place.
I have such a strong sense of his hopes and dreams when I look at this armband, though.
So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Oh, help. I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city.
It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh?
We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say, I'm almost lost for words.
I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearheaded every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded.
Oh yes, astounded is the word.
Thanks for saving me there, Susato-san.
And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor.
That's because we made it illegal for them to display negative emotions in public. Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming Great Exhibition we'll be hosting here in London.
Great exhibition?
Yes, we stole this cool thing from France called the Eiffel Tower. It's kind of our MO. We take things from other places and put them in our own museums. Sorry, is that a bit too on the nose? Cultural and technological achievements from around this globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Oh, wait, the World Fair has already happened?
Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be.
Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world.
Even if you say so yourself.
The sun will never set on our grand empire. He doesn't know. He lacks critical information. Perhaps if it's fate is in these progressive, perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times, we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun.
Lord Chief Justice. I think you were expecting a student of law for the study tour, weren't you?
Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves.
That's right.
The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores.
It's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived.
My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours.
Oh, thank you. What is the... Wait! That's what this reminds me of. This reminds me of the Clock Tower mini-dungeon in Bravely Default. Like the optional mini-dungeon in Bravely Default where you get the Chronomancer class.
And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news.
Yes. We're here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person.
They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy. I see that it's true. And it's with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed.
If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart.
Also, can I just say, I absolutely love, like, there's something about the fact that Susato she isn't afraid to speak her mind, you know? And it's always nice when they aren't being like, you know, oh, this character is mean to the main character, but is a coward in front of other people. What do you have to say, madame?
It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal.
Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo?
This is it then. The moment of truth. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead.
Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead. But without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done.
Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean.
Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country. And that was Mr. Asogi. At least that's what I've been led to understand.
Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhodo, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I gonna say? If there's someone else here from Japan who would be described as a lawyer, it's me. It's me. I can do it.
Is that so?
I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but...
No qualifications, you say? And yet you still claim to be a lawyer.
I've acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me.
and I was the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and the court proceedings while I was on board the SS Bureau. Voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here on the study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance. That's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. Perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes. That's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defenses yet, so this will be welcome news.
Today? Straight away.
If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler?
How do I get myself into these situations? Well, I could ask what sort of could I ask what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart?
Yes, a good question. I remember. It's a murder trial.
A murder?
An extremely simple case, I understand. Really can't lose.
That's easy to say.
I should mention, just in case. If the defendant is found guilty, he will of course be sentenced to capital punishment.
Capital punishment? He'll be put to death?
Here in Great Britain, murderers are all sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short sea-based introduction into British law.
We can't possibly agree to such a test. We'd be toying with a man's life.
And the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable.
But you can't do that, can you?
There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure you don't lose.
So the defendant may live or die, depending on how well I perform in court? If I lose, be hanged?
Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. You say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I'd like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen.
He's testing my resolve.
What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be?
What do I say? I agree to this absurd test? Alright then. If I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... Can't do it. I can't get the words out.
15 seconds. Your decision-making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it?
Sorry?
You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over.
Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose, whether to defend a man in these circumstances. But resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. Resolve is the second game in this duology.
What are you trying to say, madame?
I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable. And I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, a particular day they stand on the dock may be the only chance they have to fight and prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice.
Wait, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, was there something else?
It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time.
But I just said that...
I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case, there's literally no one to advocate for him.
What?
At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. You'll receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down.
But that's awful.
But that's the truth. But that is the truth.
Why does it have to be like this?
Because I said so. Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. And really his only hope? So, what do you say now, madame?
Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart?
You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree. But in my estimation, it's purely and simply a matter of resolve.
Oh,
Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves.
he's gone.
The Old Bailey.
If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once.
Miss Susato, can I just ask you something?
Careful. From this position, I can perform a Susato takedown in an instant.
I know.
Mr. Naruhodo, you heard Lord Strongheart. The trial starts imminently. If I need to throw you, I will.
You know, you could just say, I think we should hurry to the courtroom.
If you need to ask me anything, it had better wait until we're at the Old Bailey.
But what do you think about this? Susato, can I just ask you something? This is the same.
Oh, thank goodness, we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins.
Never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. Thought my teeth were gonna rattle loose.
Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Herlock Sholmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly.
Not sure why you're so pleased. Thought we were going to die and we had to pay gold for the privilege.
Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started.
Yes, I suppose there's that.
Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all.
I don't know why I'm tripping over Susato's words so much. So this is the Old Bailey. And this room for defendants to wait in is grand.
Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo?
I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. Oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever's about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed.
Yes, whoever the man you're going to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment.
Top of the morning to you, madam. Sir? What are you doing, following me here? Things are very desperate, aren't they? Sorry? Look at those expressionless faces. From the east, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. I'm not entirely sure what I want his voice to be. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... Need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange, faraway land. Actually, I haven't found a place to stay yet, no. 'Tis grand. Let me start by giving yous 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now.
1,000 guineas?
Please, Miss Susato, you don't have to shout.
But 1,000 guineas is... It's enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo.
What? It's nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. Enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ah, that hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you, no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, it's a little embarrassing. Trial's about to begin, you see. It's from your good self here. I'll be on the dock. Now what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but it's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, trial's gonna start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it's true. Lord Chief Justice wasn't making it up.
I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial?
Bluster and blazes, do you not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names. No, sorry. We've only just arrived in the city, you see. I see. Suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park there in the center of London, is another beautiful park. Sorry? A park? What? It's called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did.
An entire park? In central London?
City smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city, and it's queer? Old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. I did it as a tax write-off. But now they've got the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? All right, don't pass out.
Mr. Naruhodo, perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves, while the gentleman catches his breath.
Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see? So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft idiot? Giving you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen. That's true. Why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? He did it, that's the only explanation. Well? Well... Exactly. Yes, exactly. What now? Well, like you said, if you have all that money but you don't have anyone to represent you in court, no other logical conclusion than that you're guilty of the charges. Well, you call a spade in the East, so do you? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any offense. I still can't express myself very well in English, you see. And I'm never sure what's acceptable to say and what isn't, so... Is that so? Because you sounded fluent enough when you were telling me what a blackguard I must be. I'm terribly sorry. I can't say I blame you for thinking it, fella.
It is a little strange, to be honest. Why don't you have a lawyer, I mean?
It would be the fault of the Reaper.
Sorry? Did he just say Reaper?
Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Barrack van Zeeks. He's the prosecutor.
The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper?
When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. To this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned.
What?
So it's reached the desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey.
Goodness. Lord Barrack van Zeeks. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then.
Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madame. It's cursed.
Cursed? What on earth?
Defendant is summoned, and is his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin.
His counsel. That would be me.
Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella, don't let me down.
But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened.
Till you showed your face here. I'd made up me mind, so I had.
Sorry?
I decided I'd have to defend myself in there.
How would that have worked?
Then you made an appearance. Student of law, would you know? Why does he look like 100 years older in this like, pose? It's no accident, I can assure you of that. Oh, whoops. It's his fate. So don't get a cold feet now, please.
I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo. The man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Kazuma never would have allowed to happen.
Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? You're late for the start of the trial. You'll lose your right to stand.
I'll be right there. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because I have no idea how I'm going to manage this. So this is the highest court in Great Britain, the Old Bailey. That dude in the top hat's giving me the side eye. Like, really badly giving me the side eye. Centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes? What? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. Van Zeeks the vampire.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court will be in session. here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. He asked if the defense was ready. I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes please me. Upon ease. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. Ugh. A cold shiver just ran down my spine, all the way to the tips of my toes. Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord. You stand accused of murder. Capital offense. You should be sent to the gallows, or you could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? As I've always said, my lord, it's a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. And if a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and to give to those less fortunate a fair chance? Wow, that sentence tripped me up. I like to think that it acts of chivalry to the great British Empire proud. Listen to Mr. McGilded. What a fine gentleman London has in him. Knew that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, may I please play in McGilded Park?
It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded.
It's definitely welcome news. He certainly has a way with words. Hey, Squiggles. How are you doing? I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded, and most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you. You 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, my lord. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready.
At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree.
Ha! Any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. My man's drinking in court. I feel a chill.
Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. I must finish these mitts for my grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Those people are...
The jury, yes. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. I told you would enjoy the beard on the judge in this game. Unless you were talking about the coach's beard.
That's right, I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors.
Okay, no, it was the judge.
The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view.
How exactly do jurors give their verdict?
That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses.
Yes. Prosecutor Van Zeeks. Lord? Oh wait, that's not your voice. My lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. sorry about that. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstances which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper's been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback?
Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo.
As you wish, sir. Court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Oh my lord! I didn't remember this pun. Of course, the brick maker would be named Mason. Sorry? Thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. Oh wow. I don't remember this case, like, at all. I remember that it happened in the carriage, but, like, I didn't remember that the dude literally got shown being stabbed. Victim's corpse was discovered on an omnibus in service of the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. There's the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. One further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord. Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilded's gloves had blood on them? Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well. How did I get into this? Backed into a corner before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2. Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other... That point, oh my lord, was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Of course, I had no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded. Be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. Whenever I'm in a carriage, taken with a fierce tiredness, I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? It's the motion of the carriage, my lord. Lilton. Lilton? Lilton, so it's when I open my eyes again. It was a desperate sight before me. Body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in me life. ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? Was I not to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto the gloves then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Order, order, order! When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage. And there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we'll hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once. I might change Van Zeek's voice a bit, but... Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beepo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city.
My name's First. Lady First. I, make hats for gents.
Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago and a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, or at a short time, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Quite right.
Yes, sir, that's right, sir.
Very well then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw.
It was the last bus of the evening. I had a few customers. I remember it well.
The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged the knife right into his guts.
That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus. And then I saw it too.
Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident on the omnibus with their own eyes.
I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Yes, counsel?
Well, this testimony... it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Why not?
Well, the incident took place inside of a moving carriage, didn't it?
As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes.
Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage.
How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses?
Huh?
Tell me, my Nipponese friend. Have you even traveled in an omnibus?
Well, no. We, only arrived in London this morning.
No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves. The actual scene of the crime, that is.
This is so cool, by the way. What do you mean?
The actual scene? How? Carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes? The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? Bailiff? Bring forth the stricken omnibus. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. Four passengers are seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop above. Every Londoner knows the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Ah, a skylight. Oh! The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. Gosh, I really need to start, like, getting myself some tea or something before stream. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, Counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced a crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well. I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. Can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence.
Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary.
I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let us continue with the proceedings, then. Cross-examination, Counsel. Except,
So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London's streets from up here. Wow, why is Susato's voice so hard for me all of a sudden?
People sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with the cold air rushing past them. I have to pay money to do so?
Brr, I can't imagine how cold it must feel.
That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as punishment?
Perhaps that's the real price you pay to stay out late.
The Phoenix Wright Omnibus.
Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we?
Ugh, the scene of a murder. It's horrible. This seat has a handle, it seems. It's really weird how there's no music in here. Maybe it's because I stopped it during a spot with no music. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus going.
Feeding tubs, wow. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems.
Doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure.
Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway.
Why does that not mark as being done? That's blood that soaked into the seat. The victims, obviously.
Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck.
You really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder?
Well, it was after dark. And there was a lamp on here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight.
Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Ah, that's a poster for the Great Exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition.
Oh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event.
Oh wait, I guess we should probably check the skylight from inside. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it?
Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view to the cabin from the roof deck.
There doesn't appear to be a handle or a catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from inside the cabin at least. This is just gonna give me the spiel on the seating. Now, you can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure.
Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see it quite clearly.
It's not good for us. Let us continue with the proceedings, then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Pray, don't expect this Nipponiese stray to understand the intricacies of British courts' cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. Oh wait, whoops.
Hold it!
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes, ever so cold it was, sir. Freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus. Of course, no. There were no other passengers when the incident took place. Not one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. None. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then? I have to say, the boss insists on it running, he does. Every evening. The last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I I spent that much at the pub on the way home, just trying to warm up again. You're only making yourself colder, buddy. Victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus.
Hold it!
I'm sorry that Fair Play has had like 5 different voices. You saw them through the skylight on the roof of the carriage. That's right. Sit up on the top deck. The window's right there at your feet. Why were you looking down at the people? There was a lamp on inside, so I had a pretty good view. Two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. There's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. He's 5'11". I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There's no room for doubt here. Ugh, I really wish there was. And out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
Hold it!
You actually saw the exact moment it happened. I already testified to that? Or a fair dinkum hard-working city bankers are considered trustworthy these days. Oh, no. I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord. Juror number 3. What's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich, never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. Based. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter, anyway. I call to eject this man from the jury because he is a biased juror. That's precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. So I'm jumping the gun so that everyone else knows that they can jump the gun too. What the? What's happening here?
Let me see. Ah, yes. It seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts.
With fire?
Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case. One by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago.
So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean...
Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen.
Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination.
This is a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did, I couldn't help it.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say? You were sitting up on the roof deck, were you?
Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly. That huge, great knife. I'm slipping into girl voice.
The Grim sight indeed. Ah, didn't help me at all. Jury look like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before.
That appears to have made everyone even more dubious than Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions.
Mr. First,
Oh, yes, sir?
is this the knife that you saw?
Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir.
Is that? Yes, Counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. It is a blade of considerable size, Counsel. It is. And furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Please, no. M, for Magnus, perhaps. Or McGilded, possibly. Take your pick. It seems that this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
But there are M's everywhere. Like, yes. Like in Mason.
Objection!
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No. This weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, Counsel.
My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption.
Ah, juror number 2, go on. You love the pointing pose? Yeah, like, Van Zieks is easily, like, he's easily one of, if not the most over-the-top prosecutor in the entire series.
Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society, and a gentleman. And a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct.
Sacrosanct?
However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Wait, what are you about to do?
Dispose of the rubbish.
No!
I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today, and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I'm now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion.
Not again.
That's 4 out of 6 jury members who have proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left.
We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse.
Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark.
I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly.
We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back.
But... Alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. Wait. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. By the passenger, obviously you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And the other passenger had that knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, Obviously, you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded.
And then they plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly.
What? Lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5. I do take it that you too. As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. So what you're saying is you're a biased juror. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted, as they say.
No, please just keep an open mind a little long.
Be up now, Silverblaze. Finish is in sight. Beepo is a long-standing member of the guild. I trust what the man says.
Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir.
Biased juror. Throw him out. Get him the fuck out of here.
This is too unkind, sir.
Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Madame Juror number 6.
Yes, dear. What can I do for you?
You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Also, I'm having a lot of fun doing Van Zieg's voice. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh yes, I certainly have. I've still got my hearing, you know.
Then, pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? That also doesn't line up with when things happened, because they said that he was stabbed and then the coach stopped, and the coach said that he stopped and then he was stabbed.
Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know. Put a smile on London's faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life.
I was doing wonderful things for the city.
That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books?
How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of man Magnus McGilded really is?
What kind of a man is he?
The philanthropist, Magnus McGilder. Philanthropist, wow. The philanthropist, Magnus McGilded, wow, has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. Dark Souls moment. What?
Stone the crows.
Oh, that wasn't your voice, but... McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He's a vulture that preys on the weak. Your Honor, death. Give this man death, he's a loan shark.
I've never heard any mention of that before.
Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madame. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment day for his debts. Good gracious. That's not quite your voice, but okay. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it.
Hold it!
If I might add something briefly.
Miss Susato?
You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. But where's the evidence to support your claim?
Oh, there it is. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Aha! There it is! Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice.
How can this be considered acceptable?
But I find myself in an unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself.
As a judicial assistant to the defense, I'm simply doing my job.
What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside.
Oh,
Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. Marvelous toast, Counsel. I would gladly accept this new evidence. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. And the accused made quite as certain he had ample recompense.
well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. That part is the sheath, isn't it? Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, sorry, yes, I just don't really like blades.
Oh,
Says the person who's carrying a katana. Yeah, exactly.
those don't seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist.
That's not a blade. That's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. That looks a lot like blood.
It surely is blood. The victim's.
An Englishman's blood looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood.
Did you think it wouldn't?
I'm sorry. It's just that we've only arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust.
Yes, I do understand.
This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry.
Oh dear. Do you really think we ought to look inside?
Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder.
I assure you, we will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside.
Well, let's see what we find.
Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it?
Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? Or not all, yeah. After all, not everyone in this country is well off.
Goodness!
What is it?
Look at this. Do you see the name here?
Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually.
Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment.
Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching.
It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course. But this could be very useful information.
Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. Thank you for actually saying modus operandi. I like that phrase.
And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best.
Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before...
I don't stand for nonsense.
Sorry about that. That was it. Last juror's decision.
According to this encyclopedia of British law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here.
Final verdict. It's over then. Okay, I know that the court system in base Ace Attorney is very dystopian, but the court system in past future Ace Attorney is even more dystopian.
Oh. There's a footnote, though.
Footnote?
However, the defense.
All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial. By delivering my final verdict, I trust there are no objections. Miss Susato, just tell me one thing.
Oh, yes?
You were in the middle of saying something before. A footnote in your encyclopedia of British law. However, the defense? What did it say next?
Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point.
Summation examination?
Objection!
Summation examination. In which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck.
Oh.
What even is it, Miss Susato? This so-called summation examination?
Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it.
You should really leave the page open, Susato. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Huh. Typical Nipponese.
Alright, Mr. Naruhodo. I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury.
To do what exactly?
Appeal to them and to change their leaning, and reverse their decisions. And it says here that if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed.
Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, in times gone by, the barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. That procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really. So it rather fell out of use.
I wonder why.
Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age.
And still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Summation examination. Our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on Earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. Defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with a summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Eh? Well, I'm not, there's no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so all members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. What grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believed the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot.
This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before.
I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. I just want to convict this man to death without any justification. That seems to have thrown the jurors off.
It seems none of them have experienced this before.
All right then, the summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for, to turn this trial around. So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilded, guilty of this most serious crime. No one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to be him.
I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers, with the fares totaling 20 pence.
Stuck the chap next to him, just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen.
I've simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far, and have drawn the logical conclusion.
You trust the guild. Airfares is our motto. They haven't raised the prices above 4 pence for years.
The scoundrel, stabbing that poor man on the floor. It beggars belief.
I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now.
And some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they?
Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll have to throw everything I can at them, and use some very persuasive language.
Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works.
Oh? I thought I was gonna have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant.
Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says.
But then...
They've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become.
Then what on earth am I supposed to do?
Oh dear. I'm just citing what I read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo.
Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work then?
Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments.
What do you mean?
Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they're complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together.
And that's the way to break them down, you mean?
Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says. And see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other.
I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination.
Oh, yes, I suppose you're right.
Find contradictions in their statement and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Can we start the proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand on this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. Okay, so this is true. So, this doesn't fit with this because it's 20 versus 4, and there was... So it would have to be 5 there.
Objection!
Those 2 statements clearly contradict each other. They do. Explain yourself, counsel.
Me? Oh dear, what have I said?
I swear on Silver Blaze's maiden name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus at the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beepo, he took 20 pence in fares.
Quite right. I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me.
A juror member Juror member 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is a fair and convenient single price. The way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication,
It would be 16 pence.
exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely, one person's fare. One person's fare? Yes. In other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible that there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious. This can't be right. Coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword.
The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy.
I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride in his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make this so this miserable trial doesn't end,
Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the set of scales.
Hold your horses there, coachman. We're all in agreement. You have to go and... until I get my hands on you, Beepo. Ah, this is all very irritating.
Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same.
For the love of Mike, not you as well.
A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters.
Oh, really?
I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. You did it. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue.
2 more. Actually, there's something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions.
Then that's where you must strike next.
So I need to pit 2 or more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions.
Exactly. You can do it.
Well, scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavily on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. Okay, so it's this one and this one. Because it's stabbing the man on the floor versus sticking guy next to him.
Objection!
Those 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste.
Oh, dearie me. I was only knitting a jumper for my other half.
So this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? What we've heard from more than one witness, that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, Out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can't you see I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ah, wanted to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. Just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6.
Oh, that's me, isn't? Or is it? What can I do for you, young man?
How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam?
Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so.
Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions.
What? Bless my stitches. What a muddle.
What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth.
Oh.
But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen? All in good conscience, or in all good conscience?
Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales.
Couldn't believe it. Wait. Hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him. In his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What if the 2 witnesses have slightly different recollection of events? What of it? Let's say, Sherlock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus. This young dandy saw him do it. That young dandy is very, primed to stab the lady next to him. Now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. So the lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, hmm? Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you.
Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you.
Ugh, they're ready to kill each other now. Could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see different moments of the same crime? It's out of the question. Because he was only stabbed once, I think. If I'm not mistaken. Single stab wound in the abdomen. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you Dark Jinx? Come on, out with it. I'm slipping into judge voice with this dude. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What? What are you talking about, man? How could you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime. You say that's out of the question. Show me proof. Yeah, he is in his seat in the crime photo as well. Looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable, hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime, as proven by...
Take that!
This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once. It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen two different times. Alright, I concede defeat. Wait, that means... 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty.
We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won.
Van Zeeks is just sitting over there like, why am I still here? What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. We had a consensus. I said, shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, a quite remarkable turn of events. The defense's summation examination has flipped the balance on the scales of justice. The jurors now stand two for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate. Wow, adjudicate is a word I haven't read in a hot minute. The trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and a witness to return to their places. I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zeeks, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. Cheers. I'll drink to that. Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, it may seem crash to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks! Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There's nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence at all? Or after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Witnesses. I trust you heard the summation examination we just had to endure. Oh, yes, sir. That I did, sir. Of course I heard it.
Oh, yes, sir. I heard it.
You, sir, are on the end. The coachman. I believe it's Beepo.
Yes, sir. My lord, sir.
It transpires that in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus. You will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir.
Oh mio Dio,
Now then, witnesses, I hereby call upon you to testify before the court again. We'll explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination.
I only carried 4 passengers that night. I swear it, but
Well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus.
he fiddled us on the ferry, did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands.
Oh, yes, yes. He stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes.
Gosh, I really don't know what I want Beepo's voice to be. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cozenage. Cozenage? Cozenage? Beepo, explain yourself.
I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster.
Guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. I'd understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare.
It's so cold. The last run of the day is always half empty.
You've been dishonest, coachman.
I'm sorry.
A disgrace, Beepo. A disgrace. Your selfless actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild.
If I may, sir. I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week.
What?
And 4 passengers at 5 pence each is... yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently.
No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. O counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. You've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games.
Absolutely. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But,
Hold it!
So, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make that last run of the day pay. I was so cold. It was all I could do to stop myself passing out. I'm getting chilblains just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny or for a passenger? Digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night. Then we could have had another suspect.
I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir.
I just told you that I did.
A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of.
So-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed. It's gone, dead, and buried.
I'd have been happy if it ever existed in the first place. Bit of this on the ferry did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
Hold it!
This blood-curdling sight, you mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir.
Loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken.
Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed.
Gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it.
But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath, see? That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw the horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating.
I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands.
Hold it!
So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him.
That's what I said, isn't it?
It was bothering me before this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question.
Anyway, there was only the two of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a fifth passenger. As of yet, zero evidence. What are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty.
Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. Oh yes, I think he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes.
Hold it!
Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose. I might have, you know. Yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe.
What's this?
Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I suspect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor, and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes. And the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I? In fact, now that I come to think of it, it must have already happened when I heard the scream.
Ah, of course. It goes without saying.
But I really wish he had said it earlier.
The autopsy report makes it clear that the victim was stabbed only once. Which means the banker was a witness to the fatal wound that ended Mr. Mason's life.
Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end.
Somehow we've managed to keep our chances alive here. I can't waste this cross-examination. I have to use it to bring some new facts to light.
If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger is that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful, as they did before.
Maybe, but we can't let fear of that happening stop us from uncovering new important information.
Yes, you're so right.
I need to pay careful attention here. I don't want to miss even a flicker of a reaction among these witnesses.
Remember, if you happen to spot one of the witnesses reacting in a strange way, don't hesitate to pursue them as to the reason.
Hold it! Struth! Excuse me.
I like the "excuse me" voice line a lot better than the version of this mechanic from Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, where Phoenix just goes, "Hang on!" And it's like, it's the cheesiest sounding voice line. It's great. But I like this one a lot more because it's not, like, it's not horribly cheesy. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Listen, no, you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. Didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No chance. Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through the skylight on top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as the Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask that you supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that, all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed the man.
Hold it!
Blood-soaked? Well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. And you saw that from the roof, through the skylight. Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp on the inside of the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. This banker's latest statement. I feel sure there's something not quite right about it.
When you feel something doesn't add up, Mr. Naruhodo, that's when you should have a look through the court record.
Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Yep, this is the same. I just wanted to see what the dialogue was for that. I know what the contradiction here is. It's the gloves. The gloves only have blood on one hand. This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London.
Well, nothing will come of grumbling now.
No. By the way, is Mr. McGilded right-handed?
Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier.
Ah, pity. Only he'd been left-handed.
I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really.
I love when Ace Attorney is very, like, self-aware about its own logic. Like, I appreciate that Ace Attorney is self-aware about the fact that that's something that most people would be checking for in an Ace Attorney game, because, you know, the past Ace Attorney games love doing the person was left or right-handed. It's literally the climactic or one of the big contradictions during day one of what is it? Turnabout Goodbyes, I think, in the first game.
Objection!
Blood-soaked hands. Well, I admit that soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's a little more than peculiar. Or that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Ugh. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Ugh. But no, that can't be right.
So you're the liar, then?
Ugh. Why are you chewing on your cane, buddy? Does it taste good? Does it taste like a ring pop? Because it looks kind of like a ring pop. That's right. You were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth?
Objection!
Gosh, I love how forceful Van Zeek's objection line is. He sounds like he is having none of your shit. It's kind of got like the same imposing like force behind it as Von Karma's does in the first game. It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Ugh. Why? A city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate? I think that's how that's pronounced. I wonder what that word means. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case?
Mr. Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely.
Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. I have evidence. My lord. Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes. Evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Yeah. Well, I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. Evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes. List of innocent victims. crippled by the accused's extortion.
The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay.
What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt.
According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say?
Well, what of it?
Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case?
These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, for the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. He would cease to exist.
Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant.
Order! 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 Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again. Be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim?
Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony.
Right, now let's not make a melodrama out of this.
Melodrama is what Phoenix and Ryunosuke and Miles Edgeworth and Apollo Justice and Athena Sykes and a whole bunch of other people thrive on. Professor Layton and Luke and Maya and Trucy and...
Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. And Susato, perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch.
A pinch.
But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained.
So you keep saying?
I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. First.
Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it for myself as it happens.
Seeing what?
The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What? This shouldn't mean anything.
It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from you all witnesses. This time I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yarks.
Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last.
Yes.
I might finally have a chance to turn things around here.
Okay, I know that I gushed about this when we first heard it, but I love the cross-examination Allegro theme. Oh my god, this one is so good. There's blood on both the hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired. If that matters.
I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no. Not until I heard that scream.
Anyway, the fact remains. There can't have been anyone else inside that carriage. We all would have seen. Well, lo and behold. In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment of the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there's no one else inside that carriage. The man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it.
That's really not what testimony is about.
Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's accounts. In other words, there's no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel.
Yes, my lord.
Blood on both the hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that.
Hold it!
No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record.
Well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless. I know what I saw and I stand by it. The man had blood on both his hands.
He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfastly refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw. But why?
Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused's fingers. However, I suppose you might say that we didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters.
Hold it!
Don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance, as well you know.
But, crying out loud, we all know that no one else could possibly have done it. I was just, trying to save us all some time.
You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not?
Huh.
How do you hope to release yourself from that financial burden? By ensuring the defendant was found guilty.
That's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse at the Derby. That's all. I was going to win it all back. There's a fixture this weekend, that's a sure thing.
Little guinea or 10?
The banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. This witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness.
Is that really how it's supposed to work? I remember seeing the knife,
and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. They were my own hands. I stabbed him right in the gut and pushed him through the skylight into the room. I actually wonder if that's the angle they're gonna go with this, because I genuinely don't remember most of this trial. All I remember is that this is the trial where they introduce Gina, and Gina is great. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them.
Hold it!
You definitely saw that too. Blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilded's gloves has any signs of blood on it. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGilded sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing these gloves. That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both his bare hands quite clearly. It's true that the dark-colored stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGilded's gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands. This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow. I'm sure of it. I didn't actually see anything myself. No, not until I heard that scream.
Hold it!
You didn't see anything? Oh, yes, sir. That is to say, no, sir, I didn't. I'm very sorry about what I said before, sir. Very sorry, yes. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab that man. But wouldn't you agree, sir? No. You're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir. I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beepo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? Oh, please. You didn't even see that? My eyes were frostbited shut. It was so cold that night, you see. It was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid. Sorry to say, sir. It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beepo? Anyway, the fact remains that there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. So this statement, I think, is the contradiction. Do we have a picture of the view from the skylight? No, but you can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. There's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. It's not good for us. But you can only see the one row of seats from the roof here.
Hold it!
And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering, it was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh? Why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right. It's a public service bus, for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up on the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down. I was glaring long and hard. And that's precisely why I can why I can tell you with absolute confidence. If there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? They may not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events of the cabin through the skylight in the floor on the upper deck, is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there's a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin on the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. Prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. Identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated?
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, as I've drawn here. Ah! That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite to the one in which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. Yeah.
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. His points are so over the top, but I love them. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. British Court of Law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you have alluded.
Can you, Mr. Naruhodo?
I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? I don't think we have anyone that's even remotely a possibility. Male Strongheart. Barak von Zeeks himself. I have no idea. I have literally no idea.
But as a proud citizen of the Japanese Empire, you will look to the sky and walk on, making sure all signs of tears are gone. Go on.
This isn't just a case of going on, Miss Susato.
Alright,
Whoops. Alright then, I'll go on. The defense would like to put forward a name. What a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt. But Let's not delay, Counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. It could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... Huh? Don't mind me, I'm just gonna make a confidence save, because I'm very confident that I know who this is, and not at all, blindsided by, McGilded himself? Maybe? Oh! Okay, that would actually make sense, because they're claiming that the person next to, thrice-fired Mason is the one that stabbed him. But if McGilded was sitting across from him in the other seat, they couldn't have seen him. And that also eliminates him as a suspect. Okay, cool.
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witness on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, Counsel? It's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks! People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built.
Objection!
But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, Counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary. Order, order, order. What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that. Nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. Tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. What particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. You call yourself a hatter? Style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be so sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you were proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed to even notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled. Well, I mean, he did say he was asleep. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded wouldn't have been, or would have been unaware of it. Wow. I definitely would have, given the chance to rephrase that sentence, I probably would have phrased it as, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded wouldn't have been, wait. Wouldn't have, wait. It's okay, no, I'm being dumb. Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? Prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, you will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out that the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been most deliberate act. As for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I'd like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes, need a little more time to consider this.
If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say.
Get the man out here, I say!
It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony.
Something he's doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild.
Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say. Oh yes, that would be lovely.
Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well. Court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters in which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Egad, no. It is not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please.
The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell you, Zal, or keep me mouth shut?
Tell us what, Mr. McGilded?
The fine fella representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on that night with meself and the other man, there was another passenger.
It's true.
Aye, it was me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened.
You... what? No, Magnus McGilded. That convenient excuse doesn't save you now.
I'm truly sorry. So I am Lord Van Zeeks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you.
Which was?
Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see.
What?
If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom, just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord.
Who is this young child of whom you speak?
That I don't know.
You don't know? Whoops, you don't know?
Aye. Well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings.
What?
Smoke! Fire! There's a fire!
Someone's trying to get away. Get him!
It's no use. I can't see anything through the smoke. What's going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face.
Bailiff, do not let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. Hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. We're hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff. Amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. What on earth just happened in there?
Mr. Naruhodo, I've managed to find out what happened.
Miss Susato?
I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, a type of exploding device that releases smoke.
Smoke grenade? It sounds like the sort of thing ninjas use.
They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long.
But who would have done something like that?
The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently.
Flee the courtroom? Why?
Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear.
A young girl? Then could it be the other passenger that McGilded was talking about?
My thoughts exactly.
So he wasn't lying. Oh, what's become of Mr. McGilded, actually? There's so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here.
I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions, along with the young girl.
Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself?
There's another matter that's troubling me.
What's that?
The 20 pence.
Oh,
According to the coachman, Mr. Beepo, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly,
now it seems there were in fact 5 passengers.
which means that the figures don't seem to add up again.
She's right. That is strange. As for the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. Trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go in straight away.
Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. I really can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial.
We'll know soon enough, Miss Susato.
Yes.
There she is! There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look. She must have been the one who caused the disturbance before. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks. Lord, I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which ailed proceedings earlier. It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade, the sort typically employed by the army. Good gracious! The army? What in the devil's name? It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery, but she was caught. And now occupies the stand. Your name, girl? You're responsible for the smoke grenade, which induced such pandemonium here in my courtroom. What's the meaning of this deplorable behavior? If I may, my lord? Yes, Mr. McGilded? I think perhaps I ought to explain here. Why is it that this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that? 'Tis all tied up with the events of that night, so it is. Very well, Mr. McGilded. Give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case. Just what did happen that night? It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything. Night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then, begorra, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. As a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet. I sat him up on the seat across from me. Oh, are you... Okay, I guess they are going through the... pushed through the skylight. Or at least that's the first thing that comes to my mind when you hear a giant thud and see the body collapsed on the floor. I turned to find out where that scream had come from. Bless my soul, what did I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. I remain somewhat baffled, I confess. But from what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in the omnibus, is that correct? It is exactly as the defense counsel said. This lass was the 5th passenger, my lord. Very well. Defense may now cross-examine the witness. Are you ready, counsel? Yes, my lord. Rather, no. I have no idea where to start. The night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off.
Hold it!
And when you first got into the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board? Yes, or there were not. The cabin was empty, and there was no one on the roof deck either. We're the first passenger, as it were. I see. Aye, and that's when I took the backside, as I did. This is the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the backseat? By all means. This is how you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman who was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, it's the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. Of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. And begorra, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start.
Hold it!
A loud thud, you say? And a scream? Aye, that's right. How can I explain it? It was like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise. So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor, having been stabbed? Well now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. And when the sound woke me, I opened my eyes. There wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage, but this fella on the floor. You didn't see anyone? But at the same moment, you did hear a scream. Ah, the seat's above you, on the roof deck, I presume. Above me, no, my lord. It was from inside the cabin. I wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before me eyes. There was a fellow collapsed on the floor at me feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me.
Hold it!
You sat him up? The victim, you mean? That I did. On the seat across from me, as I said. You could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. You wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor now, would you? Just common courtesy, it is. Or so it is. I find that a little hard to believe. Ara? Lord Van Zeeks? Now why would that be? You wake to find a man lying dead at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is. Well now, as you know, I'm in something of a special line of business. Business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest. Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer them, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no. I always intended to report it, I was. Only, I had a mind to find out the whys and wherefores first. The whys and wherefores? Right you are. There were some details I wanted to understand before anyone else got to meddling. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same? Yes. The scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing. Then I turned to find out where that scream had come from. And bless my soul, what did I find?
Hold it!
I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim. So I did, sir, so I did. As far as I could see, that is. What do you mean by that? Well now, 'tis a queer thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside. Good gracious. Under your backside? And when I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there was a wee cubbyhole there for storage.
Mr. Naruhodo, we can examine the omnibus ourselves, remember?
Yes, of course. The whole bus was submitted as evidence.
This would be a very good time to have a thorough look around inside.
Huh. That's blood, isn't it?
Is something wrong?
Oh, it's just... Well, this bloodstain is so obvious, that's all. And yet, Van Zieks has made no mention of it.
I suppose that does seem a little strange.
Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? This seat looks reasonably soft, but it's actually rather hard when you sit on it. And only just wide enough for two gentlemen to sit side by side, really.
Of course, an English gentlewoman would be dressed in such finery. It would be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck. She would have to be seated in here.
A woman in a kimono would have the same problem. Women's clothes are very impractical, aren't they? This is the seat handle, it seems. Or the seat has a handle, it seems. This is a storage compartment, but there's nothing in here. It's totally empty. Something doesn't seem right here, but I can't put my finger on what it is. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yep, this is the same. That's when I found her. There's a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away.
Hold it!
You say she was hiding herself? Aye, that's right. It's hard to see in the dim lamplight. She was all curled up in a wee ball. When our eyes met, well, my heart nearly stopped beating in my chest. You're really overacting this. Still and all, I pulled her out from under there. Sat her on the seat opposite, so I could have a wee chin wag with her. Seat opposite? You sat her next to a dead body, bro. That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there. You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir. Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I needed to find out just who this urchin was, you see. While I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream. A fella's voice this time. Presumably, that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, you must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with a knife in his belly. In other words, the previous witness did not, in fact, see you at all, Mr. McGilded. They believed to be yourself and the victim was, in fact, this girl and the late Mr. Mason. Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sat at the back of the carriage, out of sight. It is certainly plausible. Defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature. Readily confused, perhaps, with this young girl. After that, of course, the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. Thank you, I've heard enough. Events as explained are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl? Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. It's commonly called a pickpocket. What? This girl here? A petty thief? Order, order. Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question. How dare you? What is the meaning of this? Ah! Girl, she's gone!
Open your eyes. I'm over here.
Good gracious, how? What was the point in that little sidestep?
I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. Just... This dirty little dipper, you'll say, slipped up and got caught on the job. She got herself backed into a corner, so she knifed the gent. Go on. That's what's in your heads, ain't it?
No, not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth, not...
Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do is these fingers.
I really want to learn how to do that.
I'm a professional, all right? Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do.
Let me guess. You don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs.
Oh, this? Yeah, it was in a bag I lifted the other day. Down where they keep the four-wheeled drags. It's nice, isn't it? I like the pink best.
Ah, do not wave that thing in my direction again. So, you admit that you were riding the omnibus on the night in question. It's alright, lass. Tell them the truth now.
Alright, yeah. It's just like the Irishman said.
Court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. Wow. You'll tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus on the night in question.
Alright, if I have to.
And unfortunately, that is gonna have to be where I end for tonight. Because I have a splitting headache. So yeah, exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord, exclamation point socials if you want to follow my YouTube channel where I post all my VODs, or my Blue Skies where I post art. Otherwise, give me just a sec and we'll find someone to raid. Okay, so yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I should hopefully be... I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to stream this tomorrow, or whether or not I'm going to take a break day and play like Link to the Past rando, because I don't want to end up straining my voice again like I did with the last Ace Attorney game. But I guess we'll figure it out as we go. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and I guess have a good one, and take care.